Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Controlled Interest. We're doing a discussion over E3 conferences, and now we're tackling Microsoft. As always, I'm joined by Jordan and Dominic. What's up, guys?
What up?
Hey, what's going on?
So, yeah, we're talking about Microsoft and their big conference here. First off, we're going to get right into it. The first announcement, the Xbox One S, their slim model. Notes I have here has a vertical stand, 4K Blu-ray player, coming in at $299, though the 2 TB version is, I believe, $399. Yeah, what do you guys think about this? The box looks slimmer, looks sleeker. I think it was a cool announcement. The fact that it's more powerful, apparently, is really huge. What do you guys think about the Xbox One S announcement?
So anyone who's not bought a PS4 or Xbox One yet, I mean, they have to buy this one, right? You're not going to buy the regular PS4 over this at this point. So I think it would be in Sony's best interest to release their own slim. But yeah, this is big. The 4K Blu-ray player is really big. This is the cheapest 4K Blu-ray player on the market, as far as I know, and it's an Xbox One also. So
yeah, you get you bang for your buck essentially. No. What do you think about the S, Jordan?
I think those prices are really solid, and obviously it looks gorgeous. They said they're only doing white right now, but I'm sure they'll do black at some point.
Gears of War edition one we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I think you're right about that too. The red something or another. I like that Elite controller that they did. I'm sure we'll get to that later, but couple little additions to the controller, gave it Bluetooth and stuff, and
the power box being on the inside. I forgot to mention that. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a big one actually. That's Microsoft's first console like that, isn't it? Because there weren't any 360s that way. And
did the original Xbox have a power brick? I never owned one. The Xbox 360 had a power brick, and obviously the Xbox.
Is it possible to find someone who did own one? Because I don't know anybody.
Maybe the power brick was in the controller.
I have an original Xbox sitting over here, but I'm pretty sure instead of like a power brick, it's just like a thick plug. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Kind of like a Mac charger or whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised if we found out the power brick was in the controller, as big as that thing was.
Yeah, I think the power brick might be the biggest step hardware wise, because like I said, that's really Microsoft's first console that way, and Sony's been doing that for a long time. So
yep.
Plus it no longer looks like a VCR.
Yeah, true. It looks very sleek.
Much sleeker. I still think that boxy design isn't my favorite. I like the PS4 the way it contours. Yeah, just the lines on the PS4 look a lot sleeker and prettier to me than the box design of the Xbox One, but this one looks way better, way smaller than the original. So big
one other thing with this guy is the power button is an actual button.
Yeah.
As opposed to PS4 where you have those two, like, I think most like original PS4s, which is what I have just touch capacitive buttons that are like slim and really hard to push, and I always forget which one's off and which one's reset.
The Xbox One has one that's touch sensitive, and I sometimes hit it with my toe or something. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That Xbox One is sneaky.
Also, another big feature that we forgot to mention that you and I were talking about, Dom, is that the controller will now have Bluetooth.
Right, which is huge, especially mostly for PC gamers who now, if they want to use an Xbox controller wirelessly with their PC, they don't have to buy a separate adapter. They can just connect to Bluetooth, which is way easier.
Which actually leads into the next big announcement they had, which is Xbox Play Anywhere. You wanna talk to us about what exactly that was, Dom? What exactly Play Anywhere was?
Yeah, because it's a big thing, and I think it's overall it's really good for gamers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have some doubts that it's going to be good for Microsoft, and I don't know if it's the right decision, but it's definitely going to be good for all of us. Basically, what's going to happen is every Xbox exclusive game from now on is also going to be available on PC.
Windows 10.
Windows 10. Yep. And what's more than that is once you buy one copy. Or rather, is it just if you buy the Xbox copy?
No, it works both ways. It works
both ways.
Yeah.
So if you buy one copy on either platform from the Windows Store, then you only have to buy it once, and you basically can do crossplay and pick up and save from each platform or everything. So it's cool. I mean, this is awesome for us. It eliminates, a big reason that PC gamers would have to buy Xboxes potentially, because now the exclusives are already coming to their platform. But in turn, Microsoft will get more sales of those exclusives. They're opening up to a wider audience. So
Also, it helps people upgrade, like have a better idea of upgrading to Windows 10 now that the trial period's over and stuff like that. They definitely want more people on the new Windows 10 operating system.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's huge. It makes sense. I think this is definitely it is weird because it's, you know, they don't make a lot of money, I don't think, from their consoles anyways, and I think this is also catering to gamers. They've done the backwards compatibility. Now they're like, hey, we don't want to force you to buy our console if you don't need to, but if you already own a console and you have a PC, guess what, the cloud saves are huge. If you have a gaming laptop, like, a lot of the stuff is really huge. It's good for families. Jordan and I were talking about this. Like, there's a lot of capabilities for this, and it's really smart, you know. And their next announcement after Play Anywhere, which we'll get into some stuff also with Play Anywhere going on down the list, their big marquee title this year, Gears of War 4, cross-buy, cross-play, with this new Play Anywhere feature, which is cool that Gears is going to be on PC. What do you guys think of the demo, the whole weather effects and all that stuff, the breakable barriers and stuff like that?
For me, Gears is... people are more hyped on this than Halo 5, I would say.
Yeah.
But they're not, like, freaking out about it. However, I think once it comes around this fall, I think it's going to turn out to be a pretty big game with the multiplayer aspect that people have always loved. And they mentioned Horde mode at this conference. I think Gears is going to come back pretty hard. And that campaign demo that they showed, as well as the demo from last year, I'm excited to play the campaign because that's obviously my favorite part of Gears. So.
Yeah, I also like the new direction. A lot of people didn't like the Marcus Phoenix thing at the end of it, where like they opened the door and he was like grizzly sitting there, which is funny because you kind of had the same thing in the Sony conference. I thought it was cool. I think the way this game is going to start out is I think you're somehow going to be involved with Marcus, and then it's going to slowly move on towards the new characters. I could be wrong about that, but it seems like that's the easiest way to transition to these new characters and get you invested in them, is to, you know, have them play alongside Marcus Phoenix for a bit until they take the reins for themselves. I also thought having Laura Bailey, a tremendous voice actress that's almost in every video game at this point, it seems like, having her go on stage and play, I thought was pretty cool too.
Got censored pretty hard there at the end in the demo.
Yeah.
Cussing out the player.
I just think it's cool though to have these voice actors get a little bit more recognition. You know, they still don't get paid as much as I wouldn't want to say deserve, but I think it's cool to let them have more recognition out there. Like Laura Bailey, go look at her IMDb. She's in almost like every marquee AAA video game at this point. Like
female Troy
Shout
Baker.
out to Fetch in infamous Second Son and First Light.
Yeah, she was also obviously in Halo 5, and she's been in a bunch of stuff. So, and she's also going to be in the Batman Telltale game as Catwoman, I believe.
Yeah.
So after Gears of War 4, we had Halo Wars 2, which had an incredible cinematic trailer. We got the release date February 21st, 2017. And they also announced the beta for the week of E3, which might be done by the time you're hearing this, probably. Yeah. So, what do you guys think of Halo Wars 2, the cinematic and all that stuff? What do you guys? Was it what you guys expected?
The cinematic was epic. It looked amazing, right?
Yeah, it was by Blur,
by the way. Yeah.
Blur does it better than anybody else.
But
I think. Go ahead.
So even though I thought the cinematic was as cool as it was, I mean, this isn't my type of game necessarily. But I also don't like these kind of cinematics because they're not necessarily representative of the game or the gameplay to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would a trailer for a strategy game with actual gameplay, you know, exclusively probably wouldn't be that exciting.
Like
right?
how exciting is that going to be? Yeah.
It's the only way to do it. It's not anyone's fault, right? But.
Yeah, I really like, though, that they have a separate studio working on Halo Wars 2 that's not 343, obviously. Like, I like that they're taking this property and they're using it in different ways. We also had Spartan Assault that came out a while back. They are using the Halo franchise, the Halo IP in interesting ways, and the games are coming out and they're good, you know? So I really wish a lot of other franchises did this kind of stuff where they played with different genres of games and they used, you know, the lore and the IP correctly. Because I think it's a fascinating way to do it, because you're getting people who love Halo to try out game genres that they've never played before,
right?
And on the opposite end of that, you're getting people who love RTSs that have never played a Halo to play and get involved with the Halo universe. So I think it works both ways, and I really wish more IPs did this.
So that's kind of where I'm at too. I think I'll be affected by that because I'm not a huge RTS person. I mean, I've played a little Fire Emblem, but that's all it's ever been, right? So. I look at something like XCOM 2 and everyone's, you know, raving over it. I'm like, I don't know, it's not really my thing, right? But make it in a Halo universe, then I'm like, oh, okay, I could get into this maybe.
Yeah, I think having a franchise you're familiar with only helps, because it's like I wouldn't play that genre. For instance, the Elder Scrolls card game. You don't really like card games, or the Gwent card game.
Exactly.
You know, both of those things are things you want to do. So I think it's something that a lot of franchises should, or a lot of people who own IP should, get in the back of their mind of trying to do. What did you think about Halo Wars 2, the cinematic and all that, Jordan?
So I was wanting to hop into the beta, but then I decided I'm actually getting to the point where, and especially with E3, every year I would just sign up for almost every beta that got announced.
Yeah.
And then I would get a bunch of beta keys, and if I didn't want them, actually a funny story with Smite, I had a friend that I worked with that I gave a beta key to that I wasn't even going to use on Xbox One, and he flipped the fuck out and he put hours and hours and hours and hours into this beta, and then bought Smite the whole 9 yards.
Oh well.
So usually I do that and just scoop up a bunch of beta keys, which I definitely got signed up for Gwent, but I don't know, especially with a strategy game. I am excited for this. I am trying to get more into strategy games, and I do like the fact that they're spinning on this sci-fi universe that I already enjoy. But especially with this beta, I think, yeah, I'll learn the rules and everything, but I don't want to get into this game until I'm actually sitting down with the full thing. And I'm kind of feeling that way with most betas now, especially since couldn't even get Mirror's Edge working and all this other shit. So as far as Halo goes, even though it is strategy and I don't play those games a whole lot, I'll probably pick this up at some point. I know the story for Halo Wars 1 was really cool, and like I said, I am a pretty big Halo fan. So
I think also with this, I think this beta specifically, it was, Halo Wars 2 has been rumored for so long. People have wanted a sequel to Halo Wars. The cult following of that first game is incredible. People loved the first Halo Wars, and I think this is this game's coming. It's less than a year away. Here's a beta. Just play around with it, And I do agree with you that I think the beta is more for people who are familiar with that gameplay and that universe than people who are new to RTSs. I think this beta is for people here's what you've been missing, as opposed to here's something you've never played before. I think it lends itself more to people who are already familiar with Halo Wars. Yeah, but it looks cool. I'm not an RTS guy, but I have friends who are super excited for it. Next
I'm glad this game is getting a sequel, that's for sure.
Yeah, Creative Assembly is actually the team that's working on it. I couldn't remember the name beforehand, but yeah, Creative Assembly. Next up, we had a couple of Killer Instinct announcements. This game isn't in the zeitgeist of a lot of people, but it is actually a pretty popular game on Xbox. Killer Instinct is getting General Rom from Gears, the first Gears game, and the Arbiter from Halo, both playable characters, which I think is huge. It's super awesome. This goes along with them previously adding one of the battle toads and stuff like that. I think they're doing a good job of adding a lot of supplemental content to this game, and I think it's just cool that you can play as General Rom and the Arbiter in a fighting game. I just think that's cool.
Yeah.
It's basically they're making their own Smash through Killer Instinct,
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, which is it's a really interesting take on it. They're yeah, we're not gonna make a standalone game. We're just gonna put a lot of our characters into this existing very popular fighting game.
You saw what happened with PlayStation All-Stars, was it?
Battle Royale.
Yeah,
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
I don't think it worked out too well.
Yeah, it was almost a Square Enix title by the name, because it was so long. Next up, we have Sea of Thieves.
Should have been called Title Fight.
Right. Next up, we have Sea of Thieves, which is something that I'm excited for. Seems like a very multiplayer experience. You have ships. Your friends are pirates. You can drink, dance, play instruments. It's from Rare. Looks like a fun time. I am cautiously optimistic about this game just for the simple fact that I want to see more of the actual game. I think the ship combat is cool and stuff, but I want to see the world. What's the point of being in this world? The ship fights are cool, but that's not going to capture my attention for hours on end. And I want to see, is there a tavern you can go to? Is there a house you can own? What are the customizable options? I want to see the actual layers to this game that make it a game I want to purchase. Also, I want to know the price point, because if this is a $20 purchase, that makes more sense for the lack of content, if that makes sense. But if this is going to be a big $60 purchase, I want to see what makes it a $60 purchase, So what do you guys think of Sea of Thieves?
For me, it looks like a cute game. It looks like fun. I'm sure people are going to enjoy it, and it'll get at least solid reviews, but it doesn't look like a game I'm going to play.
Yeah. What about you, Dom?
I'm the same. It's something about it. I was immediately low on the trailer, and Jared was like, "What are you talking about? It looks sweet." Yeah. So something about it, the art style and the just dancing around on a pirate ship. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know how to articulate it, but yeah, this isn't something that's going to be for me, I guess.
I think it also has to do with a little bit of like Fable withdrawals. Obviously, it's not Fable in any vein, but it does have that weird, quirky humor to it. You know, if you could kick some chickens in this game, it's going to be hilarious. But yeah, Sea of Thieves. A lot of people are interested in it. I am cautiously optimistic. I think it looks cool, but I definitely want to see more. Next up, we have my personal blue balls of the conference.
Oh.
Is when they started showing these wide vistas and these landscapes. This game's looking super beautiful. What is this? Is it a new IP? And then it zooms in on a car, and I'm like, oh, it's a Forza game, you know, which is cool. It looks amazing for people who are fans of Forza. I think the drop-in, drop-out multiplayer looks really interesting. These racing games always look the prettiest on the consoles. You know, they're always the highest threshold for performance, it seems like. But I could care less about cars. The game looks beautiful, but you know, it really didn't do much for me, and I was hoping it would be a new IP or something, and it was Forza Horizon 3, so that kind of bothered me. It was more of a personal gripe. This game does come out in September, though, so, you know, one of these quick turnaround games that was announced and is coming out really quick, which I enjoy. So what do you guys think of Forza Horizon 3? I know you guys aren't super simulation driver guys, but what are your opinions?
I'm the same as you. I remember the intro to the trailer being like, oh, okay, what's going on here? What is this going to be? And then when I realized it was Forza, I was like, oh, okay, another Forza game.
Yeah.
Which they all seem to be great, but it's so far from up my alley that, yeah, I mean, I miss the days when Burnout, you know, was around. That was a fun racing game for me, and some of the Need for Speeds were fun.
I even like Twisted Metal. Like, I like cars in certain avenues, like Rocket League. Like, right. I just don't like simulation racers, you know?
Yeah.
Like, What do you think, Jordan? What do you think of Forza Horizon 3?
So, usually I'm never into simulation racing, only arcade. I think I've mentioned that before, but this seems to be kind of the intersection between those two genres.
Yeah, it definitely looks more fun. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and so this may be more akin to what I've been digging recently with like the Need for Speed or even close to Burnout Paradise type of game. So I will say this trailer actually kind of caught my attention and got me looking at this game.
Yeah, and I'm just really impressed that I wouldn't say, I guess it's the wrong way to put it. I'm happy to see that they had a title that was a quick turnaround. Here's a game you've never heard of, though you know is probably coming, but it is coming out in September, so that's awesome for people, you know.
Yeah.
Next up, Scalebound. I thought this game looks interesting. It obviously ran better than last year. I think they picked the absolute worst thing to show at the press conference. I felt that what they showed was something you show when somebody's demoing the game. Like, you have 4 people line up, play multiplayer, whatever it is, and attack this boss. I think when you want to show something on stage at a conference, I think it should be a little bit more linear, a little bit more understandable to a wider audience. I think if people just tuned into the conference and saw this guy, they fighting this crab and then jumping up or scorpion, I thought it was very all over the place. But I do think it ran a lot better than last year. It's from Platinum, so I'm cautious. I'm sure Jordan is super cautious. But yeah, I just think that what they showed necessarily wasn't bad. I just don't think it was appropriate for the conference, you know? So what do you guys think about Scalebound?
Well, it can't be worse than that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. So.
Oh God, yeah. Another marquee Platinum title. I think they're just stretching themselves too thin at this point, and they're just, you know, why make 10 mediocre games and you can make 5 better than mediocre games? You know.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about Scalebound, Jordan?
So regardless of my previous comments on Platinum games, I do think I am excited for this game, and I think this could be Platinum's redemption for me, at least, just because
could be
I haven't played the Bayonetta series, which is a big hole in my gaming library at this point, but I've played Metal Gear Revengeance, I've played Korra, and I feel like I've played a couple other Platinum games. But anyways, I definitely think this game looks like it too. Their games are a little bit janky. They're not quite AAA in my eyes.
Yeah, they're like 2 A's and a half A, or like, you know.
Yeah, 2.5 A's. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're but this game looks like it could do the trick for me. I love dragons and fantasy, and one cool thing that I really liked about this demo is last year was a Scalebound single player demo at E3, and the way it ended was he had gone through fighting all these guys and then got into the cave with the big monster, and then his friends came up and they were about to go in via multiplayer and fight this monster. And so then this year's E3 demo started right where that one left off last year with the multiplayer showdown. And it probably wasn't, for me, as fun as last year's because, yeah, I'm going to play this game single player. But even still, I was almost like, damn, this is cool. Like, 4 people playing online with their individual dragons and all their magical powers. And they're all taking down this giant... whatever kind of monster it is that's, 10 times the size of all of them. And that's kind of cool. I mean, that's like a very, kind of like I talk about with Sunset Overdrive, like that's very much, in my eyes, what video games should be. What we've always wanted them to be, kind of in the back of our minds. So, Platinum, like I've kind of talked crap about them before just because they definitely released some
stinkers,
less than Platinum releases, but this one has my eye for sure. It's on my radar.
You actually said something that made me think about. So last year it seemed like the whole point of their demonstration was to show the world scope of the game.
Yeah.
And that was evident in like the large grass field with the dragon and showing you how vibrant and how large this world is around you. I think this year was more of a focus on the combat and the action of like, the tense moments, and it definitely was a more claustrophobic demo. So I think they were trying to show that this game does have both. Like, it lends itself to a more claustrophobic, narrower experience, but also this big vibrant open world experience. And I do appreciate just seeing something different. It sucks when you kind of see the same, gray, black, brown tones in video games over and over again. And this is cool. It was something refreshing for the eyes at the very least, if anything. I'm moving on. I have a couple of things that we're going to skip just because I want to get to those afterwards because there's things that I think are actually more important. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, we're going to skip a couple of things and we're going to be moving past them and come back to them later. We're going to talk about that Final Fantasy 15 demo and how bad it was. That tie-in fight was horrible. It looked boring and tedious. The guy seemed like he really didn't know what he was doing on stage, controlling it. Why was this game at E3? Like, on the conferences anyways? Why? Why, guys? Why was this at E3 in any way?
It was such a small little thing. It was like, how is this going to supplement what you've done with Uncovered? And then you got the VR demo at Sony. I was like, what in the fuck is going on here? Because he didn't know what he was doing, or he just got super nervous, or the controller wasn't synced, or whatever the hell happened. But I'll tell you, this really, for me at least, in my eyes, did a lot more to hurt the view of Final Fantasy than it ever could have.
100%.
To help. Even if it had gone perfectly well. Like, what? You're just going to, hold a button to start a quick time event with this giant titan and then not do a Shadow of the Colossus thing that would be really cool? Like, it just seemed... I think Final Fantasy seems like... 15 seems like it's going to be a solid, good game, maybe even great, but I think... After 10 years, you've got to stop showing this game to people. They know it's coming out. They know the whole story.
Especially with the Uncovered. Like, we don't need to see any more of this.
Yeah, like, Uncovered is, like, all you got to say, guys. We got it.
Yeah. What do you think, Dom? How was that Final Fantasy 15 demo?
Yeah, Jordan, I think you're right. And I'm a great example of that kind of person, as I was kind of 50-50 on whether or not I wanted to jump into Final Fantasy with this game. And after all that, I have no interest whatsoever.
Yeah.
Whoa! Just totally took it out of you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it did. If they would have shown nothing, then I'd still be at least 50-50. But something was going on that was just wrong with that demo.
Yeah, personally, I was a day one. I was like, I'm going to get this day one to jump into Final Fantasy, right? I've talked about it on the podcast before. After seeing that rough thing, because like one of the biggest things from me getting excited about Final Fantasy was like, oh, what's the scope of this fight going to be with these Titans? And to know it's super QTE intensive and stuff like that, I'm like, that's cool and everything, but this is probably going to be more of a sale game for me, if anything. I was leaning towards day one, and they definitely hurt themselves with me personally. Like, I think this 100% hurt them, didn't help them in any capacity. I think it was the dumbest move they could have done. But let's get more happy things. State of Decay 2 was announced. We actually talked about this in the preview to Microsoft, saying, will they show off Game 4 or whatever it was called? And they showed off State of Decay 2. Apparently it's 4-player multiplayer. You can play it single player, or you can have up to 4 people in your world. I thought it looked cool. There wasn't any gameplay, but I just wanted anything of this game, and they showed it. So I'm super stoked for State of Decay 2.
They showed the best part about the game, which is opening your car door and hitting a zombie as you drive past them.
Right. I think that was in Zombieland. I think. Maybe. State of Decay 2 looks cool. I'm not over zombies by any means. I love zombies if they're done correctly.
Sure.
And the first State of Decay was so well done. Obviously, it had its issues as well as far as performance, but I think this is going to be their big coming out party. I think they're really going to show off what they can do. The game looks a lot prettier. If any of that was gameplay, obviously I don't think so. Maybe it was just pre-rendered in engine. Some of the stuff did look like it was possibly gameplay, or at least cutscenes.
Yeah, I think there was some gameplay in there.
Yeah, sure. And it looks a lot better than the other game. It even looks better than the remastered or the port that they did to Xbox One. So, yeah, I'm super excited. A lot of people I think are excited. Whenever you show something like that with zombies, that's very quick. Here it is. You're in a zombie world. You need to help people. People love Walking Dead, and this very much so gave Walking Dead vibes of you're this group, you need to survive. Will you help other people? Will you not? And I think people are super stoked about this game.
Well, also remember Dead Island got canned, so
Dead Island 2, yeah.
There's
a little space.
It's in like development limbo, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's being worked on for sure.
Yeah.
They've got. I think Deep Silver has a studio on it.
Yes.
That's the right publisher.
State of Decay 2 is definitely one of my most hyped games for Microsoft's press conference. It was definitely this is happening moment,
Yeah.
And I'm super stoked for the game. I have nothing but excitement for it. Undead Labs are awesome, and I'm glad that they're getting the chance to expand upon what they've previously done, and come with another left hook to get people really impressed. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Inafune's kind of merger with Microsoft to do ReCore. This is coming out in September. I think the best thing about this game is that it's coming out at a $40 price point, which I think is tremendous to this. Though a lot of new IPs, i.e. Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff like that, Bloodborne, they can launch at $60 price points because they have a way of getting people invested early. I think ReCore is definitely a game that people are hit or miss on, and it's definitely something that people aren't sure about. It's a game that doesn't really look like a lot of other games. It's more of a 3D action platformy game, and that's not for everybody. And I think it's smart that they come out at the $40 price point. I'm really intrigued by this game. I think it looks interesting. It looks cool. It looks refreshing, if anything. What do you guys think about ReCore?
I think they may have taken a cue from Ratchet and Clank in regards to that $40 price point and see how well that did for them. And then obviously, like, their development costs also play into what they're going to charge for this game too, right? But I agree that that's a great price point for this kind of game, to introduce it, to get it in that many more hands. And it looks okay to me. I mean, it might not be my cup of tea. But I'm still curious about it, though.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a AAA masterpiece. I think this is going to be that mid-tier game. Could it be great? It possibly could. My question is, do you think Inafune's name will be on the box or on the digital art cover for this game? Do you think he's not Kojima? I understand that, but do you think that also is a selling point to people? Because a lot of people forget that Inafune's helped with this game, and Mega Man's huge.
It's possible. I think, in my opinion, the Ratchet and Clank was the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to the $40 price point.
Also, The Witness. People forget about that game, too. That game came out around the same point at that $40 price point sold, yeah.
I thought it was originally going to be Sly 4 back on the PS3, especially with cross-buy for $40. That was a really good deal, but no one fucking played that game. So, ReCore, I think, is set up to be, like you said, Dom, just it could do really great like Ratchet and Clank did. It's not quite AAA in my eyes, and I think a lot of people say that AA games have died in gaming these days. There's really only single A indies and AAA big studios and publishers, and I really disagree. I think ReCore is a perfect example, and I could list off a ton of others just off the top of my head that are really strong AA titles that don't need to be. They could still be 60 or maybe 40, but they give you plenty of content and plenty of fun that isn't necessarily quite as much polish as a AAA title. So I think this could be a good pocket for ReCore to sit in and do pretty well, especially for an Xbox exclusive that does have a big name creator behind it. And the gameplay looks fun. It doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look. I don't think it's going to be as good as Ratchet and Clank, but it looks like a solid game.
Yeah. I also think I think Inafune being a part of this game has me the most excited. And I think its release window and its price are everything. I think they did a very smart thing, having it come out in early September, $40 price point. People are getting hyped for that big fall of the huge, AAA games. You think, Gears of War 4 is a month away. You're in September. You're like, what do I have to play? Recore? This game looked cool at E3. Oh, it's only $40. I think it could definitely help it. Yeah, so we're going to move on. I don't think these necessarily have a lot for us to talk about, considering we already talked about EA's thing, but Battlefield 1 was talked about. It's going to come early to EA Access, obviously, which sucks that PlayStation doesn't have EA Access. It's such a tremendous service. And then the Division Underground expansion, which is cool for people who are into the Division, whatever. I kind of tune out, just like when they do stuff with Destiny. It's the same thing. It's just whatever. My one complaint is, why didn't EA and Microsoft work on a new trailer for their conference? Why did we see the same Battlefield 1 trailer that we saw 1.5 times at the EA conference? I thought that was weird.
And it's even appropriate. We mentioned it yesterday, but we're mentioning it again just to show the fact that how unnecessary this could possibly be at 2 conferences in a row. It gets me less hype for your game, quite honestly, and especially when you didn't fucking show gameplay yesterday at your EA conference, except when I've got to watch the damn post show with Zac Efron and Jamie Foxx. But you're gonna come out the next day at Microsoft and waste some more time and show this trailer again. So yeah, EA just needs to go.
It was dumb too, because you figure way more people watch the Sony Microsoft press conferences than the third parties. It's just the case, I would assume anyways. True. So I was assuming, because we saw what we saw at EA for Battlefield 1. This is going to be, we're seeing story gameplay or something, and they didn't. They're just like, here's a rehash of the trailer we already showed. When you saw what happened at Sony with Call of Duty, they had a whole mission get played. So I think they definitely missed the mark on this. I think it was a terrible decision, but it is what it is. C'est la vie.
Yeah.
Next up, I don't know if we have too much to say about this. Microsoft having dedicated servers, I think, is huge. The Minecraft Realms coming to mobile and eventually Xbox is really huge. Cross-platform, I think, is super huge. John Carmack, previously from id, now with Oculus, came out and talked about VR, which I think this was like a sprinkling hint of, we are working with Oculus, get ready, Because why would they have John Carmack come out on stage for Minecraft VR? They could have had, I think, anybody, but I think having him specifically out there, they're like, we're working with them to make this a thing for an announcement we'll obviously talk about later in the conference. So I think that was huge. What do you guys think about the Minecraft stuff? I know it's probably not too important to you, but it's a huge IP. They have to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Me and Jordan are both psyched that we can play Minecraft with each other, since I play on an iPad and he plays on a PC. We've been looking forward to. Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't care about Minecraft, but you are very right, Jared. It is a huge IP for them. The fact that they bought it and they have, maybe one of the biggest games, if not the biggest video game of all time, all to themselves. And I gotta commend Microsoft for this conference in general, but especially for how they handle Minecraft. I think there's always something coming to Minecraft, something cool, a new update, a new feature being added that is useful, and VR is going to be a huge part, crossplay is going to be a huge part, and I think they're handling Minecraft really well. It's a great way for them to navigate this massive ship of an IP.
Also, I think the fact that they didn't hurt the PlayStation experience for this game. They could have easily done something where, new content after a certain point wasn't coming to PlayStation platforms, and they didn't do that, I think that's huge. I think that's really huge, because they could have easily, Minecraft's so huge, they could have just said, yeah, we're not going to be supporting the PlayStation platforms because it doesn't make sense as a business, and they would have still made money and stuff, but they didn't do that, which I think is very huge.
This is the smarter way to do it, to just play nice with PlayStation. There's no reason not to. You're still going to make plenty of money off of that as Microsoft, and that's another point I'm talking about, is they're just being so smart with it and not being, the kid who doesn't want to share his toys.
Yep. So the next thing, these are some huge announcements. First, we're going to get into all the Xbox Live related announcements that they talked about. So first of all, Cortana coming to Xbox One I think is cool. It also is another benefit to having a Kinect, since guaranteed support for it kind of died. I still appreciate my Kinect. I use it to turn on and off my Xbox and go to certain games. But seeing Cortana added is really cool. Background music. It was a feature on 360 that people loved. It wasn't on the Xbox One. People hated that. And Microsoft listened. So give them props for listening to that, bringing back background music. I think it's huge. I'm going to list off the final things here, and then you guys can give your impressions on any of them. The clubs, which are kind of like PlayStation groups, I would assume. I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm assuming they're kind of like that, where you make a club and you name it whatever you want. And you can find people in your area to play a game or people who are excited about a certain game. You can make an achievement group if you're looking to get achievements. Speaking of groups, the second feature, looking for group. If you're playing a multiplayer game, one of the biggest issues we were talking about with Dom's topic a couple of weeks ago was it's hard to play a multiplayer game if you don't have friends dedicated to it. Well, having this feature where it allows you to find other people to play a game is really awesome. And lastly, the Arena, basically the Xbox organized tournament platform, which is really cool. What do you guys think about these? Are they huge? Are these huge Xbox Live announcements?
I think individually, they're each, that's nice. Just a nice little side note. But, there was, 3 or 4 different things you just mentioned where it just shows that they're continuing to support Xbox Live as a service, right? Whereas, what did we hear about PlayStation Plus and things that we want there, right? We still can't change our names, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But at least Microsoft is showing and letting everybody know that, we're still trying to improve this.
Well, it's 2 years in a row. You had backwards compatibility last year, and then this stuff. They're getting it, man.
Right. They don't take it for granted that people are paying $40-$50 a year to subscribe to their services, right? They're showing that it's worth it.
Yeah.
That they support it.
I completely agree. What about you, Jordan? What do you have to say about this Xbox Live stuff?
This stuff, for me, is the reason why Microsoft had the best conference. I think you put all these incremental pieces together, and incremental, yes, but background music, groups, searching for group. There's several others that are just, in my mind, they're actually kind of monumental, and they really make Xbox Live a way stronger service. And you add this to the way, like I said, they handle Minecraft, all the awesome hardware from console to controller and Gears controller and all that stuff. I think that they were hitting on all cylinders. Games, hardware, Xbox Live. They couldn't have done any better, in my opinion, and this was a big part. The Xbox Live features that they added, I was so excited about, and at the same time I was like, where the hell you at, Sony? Because Sony could just really give a fuck about the PSN right now, and that's really sad to me because Xbox Live is and always has been the best online service, and Microsoft is taking huge steps to keep that the case for years down the road at this point.
Yeah, I think there's 3 major things you do at a conference, in my opinion. I think it's, 1, you want to win over people who haven't upgraded to next gen yet, right? Because there's plenty of them.
True.
I think, secondly, you want to win over people who already own a next gen console that's not yours, right? You want to get those PlayStation people to at least buy an Xbox, right? They did that, I think, with PC game, Xbox One exclusive being on PC, or even the new Xbox One S, where there's no PlayStation version this year. There's not an upgraded PlayStation 4. And lastly, you want to win over people who already own your console, make them feel as if what the investment they made is worth it, and they did that with the Xbox Live announcements. I think they hit all 3 of those pillars super strong, and they had the most well-rounded conference. They hit on everything. I love seeing games, but I also want to know why do I pay for online service? I think you have to have a well-rounded experience at your conference, and I agree with you. I think Microsoft killed it. Next up, another huge announcement. I think this is one of the biggest announcements of Microsoft's conference, the customized controllers. It's one thing to announce that you can go on the website, make your own customized controller. Everyone's sitting there okay, that's really cool that you're doing it in-house. What is it going to cost, $110, $120? $80. That is insane to me. That's such a low price for a customized controller. You can get your own engraving on it for $10 more. I thought this was huge. It was coupled with the announcement of the Elite controller, the Gear-specific version. I think it's also awesome that these customized controllers are all the Bluetooth-enabled ones, which is huge. I just think that this customized controller thing is huge, and why isn't this a thing? It's cool that Microsoft did it, but why wasn't this thing a thing in the past? Why isn't Sony doing it? This should be a thing.
They're gonna make money on this too.
Yes,
Yeah.
so much money.
They're missing out on all the eBay, random dudes who are just doing it and making bank off of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Those people are pissed right now, huh?
Also, Dom doesn't even own an Xbox One, but coupled with Play Anywhere and the Bluetooth capabilities, he said he spent like quite a bit of time clicking through the options to see what kind of controller looked nice, So that coupled with like the Bluetooth, coupled with being able to play exclusives on PC, plus it being customized controller, those all fit. You're selling a controller to somebody who doesn't even have your console, to Dom, and he's probably not the only one, and it's so smart.
Yeah, there's pretty much every PC player uses a wired Xbox 360 controller now, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we've used for years, like for a long time. And because there's been no reason to switch. Yeah, having a wire there isn't ideal, but yeah, going to wireless with the same kind of controller got really expensive, whereas the wired controller was like $30.
Yeah.
But now at least it's streamlined. There's Bluetooth enabled already, so you just connect real easily instead of having to buy a separate adapter on top of everything. So
yeah, great. You can order a controller, make it Steam colors. Your engraving can say Master Race, and you can have fun. I think the customized controllers was huge, and this is another year of them saying once again, like, gamers, you want this stuff, here it is. Like, the backwards compatibility was so huge last year, and though the customized controllers aren't on that level by no means, it is another here gamers, we're thinking of you, and I think it was huge. And the $80 is so insane. I was
that was my biggest surprise, is that it was $80, but I guess I was even more surprised that our regular controller is $70 now for Xbox.
60 or 70, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think it's $70 for regular and then $80 for customized, which that doesn't make sense, but. Yeah, I'm almost positive that DualShock 4s are $60, like probably straight through Sony.
Just these new ones.
Well, no, I think 70, the regular ones are $60. I think the ones that have Bluetooth now are $70. The ones that have Bluetooth are now $70. Right. Yeah.
So there's a price hike on that, just slightly, but I mean, justified enough, I guess.
They've already upgraded the Xbox One controller once when they've added the regular mic input as opposed to their own proprietary.
Yeah.
That was a few months ago, but I don't know. Who knows what the hell the prices are?
So next up, we want to talk about, Microsoft Studios came out and talked about all of the indie, not indie games, and this is going back to our EA discussion of the EA originals to Jordan. He felt that it was very pandering, and it can feel like that. I completely understand that. I think Microsoft Studios did it the right way. They show off games that people do care about that they've already been doing for a while. You have Ori, you have they showed Limbo off. Speaking of Limbo, they showed Inside. They didn't show any gameplay, which is that's one of my only gripes of the Microsoft conference, and Jordan will get into it probably. I'll have him talk about that. Inside, though, the new game from the people who created Limbo, available June 29th, super soon, awesome. I love Limbo. By the way, the Xbox One version of Limbo is free. Go download it. That is such a good game. The artistic vision in that game and just the creepiness of it, it is so well done. It's one of my best experiences on Xbox 360, period. I love that game so much. It's such a unique experience, and the artistic style is, like I said, awesome. The achievements are great. The hardest achievement in the game is to play through the entire game in one sitting, dying 5 or less times, which is a lot harder than you'd expect. The game's just solid. Go download it. At least try it. But what was the gripe everyone had with Inside, Jordan?
Well, kind of the fact that the dude came out and he was like, so Inside's coming out in just a few weeks, and it's absolutely incredible, and we've got this trailer for you, and see you later. And the trailer was just like people in an environment, which is not something we haven't seen plenty of times in video game demos before. And so it was barely a trailer, but I mean, still looks awesome, still looks like an incredible game. So I really wish they had shown more and not just kind of mentioned the game, essentially, but still very excited for this one.
Yeah, my only reasoning playing Devil's Advocate here is Limbo was such an experience. It's such a personal experience. If you're playing, put your headphones on, you escape into this world. It's very artistic. There's no dialogue at all in the game. I think maybe Inside they didn't want to show too much because they wanted to be that experience. They want you to go and buy it and experience it for yourself, and they didn't want to give away too much. Like, literally, the only thing we've seen is people standing around, and then last year we saw the dude walking in a line with, the bread or whatever.
Yeah. It seems like a very similar game as far as tonally to Limbo.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you. It is weird that people were talking, this is a great game, this is one of the greatest games, yada, 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 but then we didn't see any gameplay, so it's like, maybe you shouldn't have said anything, and we'd have been fine with just the people standing there. But the fact that you're hyping it up so much and then we didn't see any gameplay,
Yeah.
Also, some games during the Microsoft Studios little montage. Cuphead, we still don't have a release date for. Deliver Us.
Getting worried about Cuphead.
Yep. Deliver Us the Moon. Looked really cool. Below, Cappy Games. Where the hell is a release date for that game? At least Cuphead has an excuse in that it's going to be a larger game to scale than what they anticipated.
Below and Cuphead. I'm not too worried about either of those, but there's like your radar for games coming out, and then there's the radar where they're kind of going off course, and you're just watching those games like, make sure you don't fuck that up.
Yeah. I honestly think maybe Xbox was assuming that those games were going to be ready sooner and they were going to do a summer of Xbox again. It just seemed like that. Stardew Valley coming to Xbox is huge. That game was massive. We talked about it before on the show. The game was massive on PC. I think it's a huge get. Obviously it's not Harvest Moon, but it's Harvest Moon-esque, and to have a Harvest Moon-esque game on the Xbox is cool, And one of my games of the show that I loved, We Happy Few. Oh my god, does that game look amazing. I love anything dystopian. You have me sold. Put some weird masks or face paint on people to make it look like, a Clockwork Orange, and you have me double sold. I think that gameplay and the way they set it up of him going to, if you haven't seen it, there's a piñata on the table. They go to hit it, and he moves his hand. His happy pill or his joy pill wears off, and it's actually a dead rat. I think they explain the world brilliantly. That game looks so cool. What did you guys think of We Happy Few? Did it get your jimmies rustled, as they would say?
Yeah. I've actually been waiting on this game for a while, like at least a year, maybe more. And a lot of people are talking about the BioShock vibes. I totally see that, totally feel where that atmosphere comes from. And not one of my most anticipated, but very high up on my anticipated games list. I cannot wait to play it.
Yeah, it definitely rustled my jimmies.
Jimmy's rustled.
Once again, it was something unique. It looked different. Like, it's cool. Going back to you talking about like the scale bound, it being a video game we want to see. The whole point of video games too is I like different video games. I don't play video games because they're all the same. I like playing different types of video games for different reasons, and this game looks like a really cool experience. And the decision making, I don't know how crazy it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Detroit Beyond Human level, but I think too those little tweaks of, do I take the pill, do I don't? I think all that stuff is super awesome. They have a really cool cult hit on their hands with We Happy Few. Might be commercially successful too. There was actually a report that it was one of the most searched video games from E3. Yeah, on search engines. Yeah, which is insane. That's awesome. Next up, I think this was the biggest announcement one of the biggest announcements for Dom at Microsoft's conference, the Gwent mobile card game.
Gwent! Finally!
I think your only disappointment, Dom, is that it's not coming out. Is it coming to iOS? I don't remember if they said that.
Just consoles and PC.
Yeah, I guarantee you'll get it at some point.
It's weird to me that they align themselves with Microsoft, because nothing on The Witcher has ever been timed exclusive or anything. Maybe Microsoft just cut this deal, and they were like, people love Gwent and we want to have it at our show. So, it's weird that there's kind of this developing theme of a card game at each conference. Like Bethesda had obviously Elder Scrolls Legends, and now there's Gwent at Microsoft's show. It looks cool. It looks exciting. I think it definitely needs to come to iOS and Android for the sake of people like Dom. Dom's now interested in playing Elder Scrolls Legends because it's coming to those platforms and it's easier for him to get into it. I think it being on console is cool, but it's hard to sell a card game. It's hard enough to sell indie games on consoles, much less a card game on consoles. So
why would I want to play a card game on my console? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not. I just feel like same thing with indie games a lot of the times, and some of them are good enough to justify it, right? But it's like I want something that's actually going to make use of the console, right? Like give me a card game or indie games on 3DS or mobile, right? Where like if it's there, it's all I need, that kind of thing.
See, I have to disagree with you in the sense of like card games. I understand your argument on, but like with indie games, I do like playing on a big screen. Like I like some games though they're not these Witcher 3 experiences where they take every part of the specs to maximum use. They do make the games look prettier, and I think an indie game being experienced on a TV, if it's the right kind of engagement, like I don't think Gone Home would be the same on a portable device. I don't think there's many games that are indie games that would feel the same.
more like 2D platformer type indie games. Not necessarily like We Happy Few. Obviously, you'll want to play that on a console.
Yeah. Also, I think with this Play Anywhere stuff, I want an Xbox One handheld. I want an Xbox handheld already. Do it. It'll never happen, but a man can dream. Jordan, just like you want PS Vita too.
Have the Microsoft
well, at least
Surface.
I got Gwent. I got
true.
solo Gwent, so I got one dream.
Yep, true. Tekken 7, this is, I think, I don't think it was exclusive, right? I highly doubt. I didn't remember, yeah. But it is, I think, their answer for them showing at their conference to Street Fighter 5. People were not happy with that game when it released the shell of it, what it was supposed to be. It's coming out early 2017. People like Tekken. It's a pretty big fighting franchise. We have a large slate of fighting games coming out. The improvements to Killer Instinct, Injustice 2, which we saw nothing of at any of the conferences, Tekken 7, Street Fighter 5 is supposed to get supplementary content. I don't have too much to say. Tekken 7 is cool. People who love fighting games are probably excited, it is what it is. Dead Rising 4. So this is a thing that's gone back and forth. It's Frank West going back to Colorado, going to be coming out holiday 2016. It might get pushed. I'd assume it might get pushed. So during the show, it didn't say Xbox PC exclusive like the rest of the games did, or Windows 10 rather, sorry. And we were like, oh, that's weird. And then Aaron Greenberg went on an interview and talked about how he doesn't like using the word exclusive a lot of times because people don't like that term. And then we're like, well, that's weird. They didn't use that on any of the other games, right? Finally came out today. This is actually a timed exclusive for Windows 10 and Xbox.
I knew it.
So that's why they didn't say exclusive, which makes sense. It's going to be a timed exclusive, which is cool for Xbox. People are like, oh, yeah, I'll finally be able to play it on PlayStation when it's done being timed. We still don't have a release date for Rise of the Tomb Raider, so hopefully...
Jeez.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah, so hopefully this doesn't go down that route. Dead Rising 4 looks cool. I love Frank West. He's the most intriguing out of any of those characters in the series. They were really strong to say this isn't a reboot or a remake of the first game. But everyone loves Frank West. Everyone loved playing that mall. I think this is going to be fun. It's going to be Dead Rising fun. It's going to be the Dead Rising game we want on next gen that isn't forced to be a launch title. So what do you guys think of Dead Rising 4? Are you stoked? Are you excited? Are you even happier that it's not a timed exclusive?
It's coming to PS4.
It is a time exclusive, sorry. Eventually.
Yeah, who knows when.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan? Dead Rising 4, does it rustle your jimmies?
It rustles my jimmies. I'd say I'm definitely not down, or I'm not, out of the whole zombie game at this point. I think the reason zombies are so popular is because they're pretty fucking cool, and...
That's going to be a quote.
Quite frankly,
I was going to mention earlier about State of Decay. That's really my type of zombie game because I've always wanted a zombie universe where instead of the human beings almost being not slaves to the zombies, but just always scared of them and always running from them, I want to see humans kind of taking back the land in a way.
More aggressive, we are humans kind of thing,
That's part of that was part of the appeal for The Last of Us, right? Where each of those, they weren't zombies technically, but each of even one or two of them was a threat, right? And you had to be careful. Same in Dying Light, more than a couple of zombies and you could be in trouble, right?
Well, I think that's you take the genre and you twist it on its head. That's why, though the movie isn't anything like the book, World War Z was so popular because there was the hive mind zombie. It was a really cool take on it. The really fast hive mind zombie. People love 28 series. Obviously, days, weeks.
That's what I'm saying. Zombies are so cool because there's so many different types, and you can have partial zombies that are still alive, like clickers, or
they can be more realistic,
and
like
Days
the
Gone.
fungus ones.
Yeah, and realistic. So like I said, I think State of Decay is the zombie universe that I really want, but then Dead Rising 4 seems like the zombie game I really want because I do want to just have a good old time. That's kind of what Sunset Overdrive is. They're not zombies, they're mutated humans, but you're just running around and shooting these hordes of monsters essentially, and you're doing goofy stuff in both of these games, Sunset and Dead Rising, and just having a blast, blowing up zombies, and that's another awesome thing in video games. So I'm excited for that.
And the thing too,
on the PlayStation.
And the thing too is, I don't want to talk too much about the PlayStation conference, but Dead Rising 4 to me is a little bit more intriguing than Days Gone because in the Days Gone demo they showed them shooting down zombies and they just look like paper. In Dead Rising, though you kill a shit ton of zombies at the same time, it feels satisfying. They have a sense to their body weight and a sense to you killing them, and I think that's more satisfying in a game where you can kill shit tons of zombies. So the last thing we want to talk about, Project Scorpio, arguably the biggest announcement at Microsoft.
Big boy.
Yeah, big boy. It's big boy referred to here, but I had to say it so people knew exactly what we were talking about.
I don't know what Scorpio is.
If you didn't hear in the really cool dev video they had, it has 6 teraflops. If you didn't
all
hear
about
that,
the flops.
And the only thing that we saw from the console was like a, GPU CPU chip that just said 4K on it.
Yep, 8 CPU cores, holiday 2017. I have a couple of questions as to what I exactly think this is, but how was the announcement for you guys? Did you think they handled it correctly? Do you think the way they went about it, this is a huge thing for them?
I think it's premature, to be honest. This is like a strategic move. I don't think like normally this is something they would do, announce this thing this far ahead of time, especially when they also announced a slim model. Because now there's and when they announced that everything's coming to PC too, so now there's like, why buy a slim when I'm going to wait for Scorpio? There's just a little bit of weirdness there for me, but I guess since everything already leaked, maybe it kind of forced their hand a little bit. It just seems premature a little bit, but the messaging and the insurance they gave that everything is still going to work on old Xbox Ones and everything like that was really good. And they made it clear that this is for 4K TVs, basically. That's where you're going to see any real benefit out of this machine. And they definitely made sure to show that like this is all out like a huge step. This isn't just some kind of like ancillary mid-level thing. Like this is like truly a huge. This is like 5 times as powerful as the current console. So it's a
that's
big
what I'm
jump.
saying, man. Go big or go home. And that's why Sony jumped out.
And you think about the people that they had. Like they had Todd Howard there. People have seen Todd Howard at the Bethesda things and announcing these games. Like having him there, they're like, that means that he's working in congruence with Microsoft. Obviously, that's not wholly the case, but like the next Skyrim, the next Fallout, like this gets me hyped. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So one of the concerns a lot of people had when like the Neo stuff leaked was like, oh well, this is just going to put a lot of extra pressure on developers. Now they have to develop for a whole separate machine now, and they're going to hate that, and the games are going to look like crap. But so showing that that series of dev interviews kind of helped to address that, right? Where it's quite the opposite, I would imagine, for most devs, where they're excited that they now have more power to utilize when they're making their games.
The argument could be true. The argument could be true though, that the Neo wasn't a big enough iteration forward for the console, that maybe it was kind of tedious for developers.
Yeah.
This is such a huge leap forward. They're like, oh, there is a reason to develop for this because it's so powerful, and we'll never know that discussion. But I do agree with you that they did alleviate a lot of pressure from that. I think that the reason they announced it now is because I think their big thing for E3 next year is what does a console look like? So they want to announce what the console can do from a power standpoint. I think next year it's what does a console look like? Oculus support. I think they don't want to have a conference next year where they're constantly talking about how powerful this thing is. You know how powerful it is now. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, let's see what it looks like. Let's see what 4K games look like on this bad boy, and let's see the Oculus support,
And there are some weird hints from Todd Howard that maybe you might one day be playing Fallout 4 in VR on your Xbox Scorpio. It seemed, I don't know, obviously nothing was...
Well, they announced Fallout VR at Bethesda, so...
Right, on the Vive.
It said it'll launch... It didn't say exclusive, he said it'll launch on the Vive in 2017. Right. He never said exclusively, so...
It's just... And then I can't remember exactly what he said during the Scorpio announcement, but he said something about, like... He mentioned it briefly, but not really giving any real information. That's exciting, though.
Yeah, I think it's huge.
If you go back and look through that video, a lot of the language that they use in the Scorpio dev thing was a lot of stuff that they were trying to kind of markety stuff, kind of PR talk that was trying to quell some of these alarms that people have been setting off about the issues with developers having and having to upgrade mid-generation and how it was mostly for 4K owners of 4K televisions as opposed to people who have 1080p TVs. So
and why it
they
matters.
did a lot of there was a lot of language in there to try to help them keep that message on the right path. And I think even just the fact that it's called Project Scorpio is a big deal, because you were saying it may be too early to reveal, but I think that Project Scorpio title is a tactical choice for them to be able to say, yeah, this is like Project Morpheus with PlayStation or Project Neo. This is a work in progress, and I really don't think it's going to be called Xbox Scorpio. It's obviously going to be called Xbox Big Boy.
So also to this, you have to think about this. So we heard about the PlayStation Neo rumors, right? Xbox probably they've been sitting on this. No, this was something that happened after the Neo. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But they saw that Neo was going to be possibly at E3, so they're like, well, I guess we have to make a presentation for this for E3. The problem Microsoft has every year is they go before Sony, so I'm pretty sure they deliberated. They're like, okay, we will show it. To get the interviews from the developers and have that whole setup, it takes more than a week. And Andrew House's interview saying Neo wasn't going to be at the conference, that was a week before, right? It wasn't any later than that. Any sooner
than that? A few days before.
Yeah, so you figure this was planned. Microsoft's like, well, we need to show the Scorpio because obviously we want to get ahead of PlayStation, saying ours is more powerful. So I think maybe Sony pulled out. Microsoft's like, well, we can't pull out because if we don't have the time to do so, and if we do, what if they do show the Neo? Then we're a step behind, and it's better to be a step forward with a more powerful console than a step behind with a weaker one. So though you can make the argument that it was a little soon, I do think they had their reasoning and was justified. You said like it sucks that for some people that they have to choose between the Xbox One S and the Scorpio. At least they have two new options. What do PS4 owners have? At this point.
Yep.
So I think they did alleviate pressure. I think they handled it as best as they could. I think that I'm going to do my little summary here as we close out for this Microsoft discussion. I thought it was the most complete conference. I thought it was necessarily maybe didn't have the super hits as software is concerned, but as a full front-end conference, it was definitely the most complete in my eyes, and it was the best conference at E3, and I think they did it right by me. So,
for me, I would say you really hit the nail on the head with it being the most complete conference. I definitely think it was the most well-rounded, and it had everything that you could have wanted with the hardware and the games and the Xbox Live, and just the way that they were announcing things and the way that they were basically just, going throughout the conference. The pacing and the format of it was very important and very big for me. But some of these things, man, they seem like smaller little, like I said, kind of incremental stuff, maybe the little Xbox Live updates or the customizable controller, but I'm telling you, these guys are breathing down Sony's neck, and I've wondered for so long why Sony really hasn't just put the nail in that coffin with Microsoft, and they had so many chances, and they just haven't done it. And Microsoft, like I said, they're coming after them, man, and they're making smart moves, and they are really impressing me with the way they're handling business at this point.
Yeah, I would say it's like the death of 1,000 cuts, right? Small little incremental cuts that eventually add up.
Good point.
Dom, what do you think about this whole Microsoft conference as a whole?
Oh, it was great. It was real good. A lot of the games didn't exactly do it for me personally, but there still were plenty of games, and games with reasonably timed release dates, like games that are coming out this year, early next year, not indefinite release dates on the majority of the games, right? And then all the hardware stuff it was pretty spot on, I think, for what they're trying to do. So this was a great conference, definitely.
Yeah, so you heard what we had to do, what we had to say, not do, for Microsoft's conference. Let us know what you guys thought of it too, if it was as good as we thought it was. So thank you guys for listening to our Microsoft discussion, and we'll catch you guys in the rest of them. So catch you guys next time. Any closing words, guys?
Greatness awaits.
It definitely awaits.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Later, guys. Don't get your jimmies rustled. Bye.